Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everyone. What is the best darn pie you have ever had? That is the question of the day. And it is actually January 23rd, 2025, which is National Pie Day that we're airing this. It's also National Rhubarb Pie Day. And you know what? There's also a National Pie Day on December 1st. There's Apple Pie Day on May 13th. There is National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day on June 9th. So basically, we've got Thanksgiving, Christmas. When don't we want pie? Even the savory pies, come on, quiche, all of that good stuff. We're going to get into the history of pie around the world, how everyone eats pie, sweet and savory, in a little bit. But first, we have some awesome guests on the show that I want to tell you about. We've got Sarah Spector, who joins us from Oregon, where she runs Bells Up Winery with her winemaker husband, Dave. She found out about a great grape pie. Say that 10 times real fast. This pie is interesting. You'd never think that grapes would make a great pie, but they do. Stay tuned to hear about that and what wine she would pair with it. And when we talk about wine pairings, if you look in the episode notes, you will see everyone's links that are part of the show today, as well as a list of recipes, podcasts, and articles. And one of the articles and podcasts is with Peggy Fiandaca, who owns, along with her husband, Kurt, LDV Winery in Arizona. And she gives a great list of wine pairing suggestions for pie. She also has a killer apple and blueberry crisp recipe in there. We also have on the show, we go from Sarah to author Elaine Powers, and she joined the show to say, hey, y'all, I prefer rhubarb pie with no strawberries. And we're like, really? She talks about rhubarb around the world and pie. She doesn't make pie. And then we're like, hey, well, our friend Eva Eldridge, also in Tucson, where Elaine's based out of, who is an amazing cook and baker, we need to get her to bake a pie. Well, so Eva joined the show. You're going to hear from Eva, and she turns out the very first really good pie she made was rhubarb. Does she like strawberries? Find out. We're going to find out if she wants strawberries in that rhubarb pie. Then we move up to New Hampshire, where we talk with innkeeper Maria Chamberlain, who, along with her husband, she owns and operates the inn at Oxbow Acres. Beautiful looking place. She talks about how to make pie crust, but guess what? Her favorite pie is. You're going to have to see, because it has to do with rhubarb, maybe the strawberries, maybe not. Apparently, this is a big deal. Do you want your strawberries in the rhubarb pie or not? It's a good thing today is Rhubarb Pie Day, and that there is a National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day on June 9th. So, look in the episode notes for the links to the recipes, the podcasts, the articles, plus our music playlist that has all kinds of pie songs, including John Cleese, who has his rhubarb tart song that I just have fallen in love with. So check it out. But for now, I'm going to get to the world of pie, the history of pie, and then we're going to hear what our guests have to say about pie making, whether it's the crust, grapes, you name it. Here it goes. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your pie. And don't forget, if you're listening through social media, give us a comment. We want to hear what your favorite pie is. So today we celebrate pie. I love this. You've got to look back to pie actually was almost a form of peasant food. It was a way of capturing whatever your filling was and wrapping it in some kind of pastry dough. But it's also morphed over the years. You've got to think of shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie in England, we used to eat that all the time. Mashed potatoes was really your pastry. And that, it was a savory pie with roasted lamb or mutton, like a stew almost. And the potato was your thing. So there's all kinds of ways. I have friends who make quiches, which is a pie. And some people use pastry dough at the base. And some use hash browns. Both are absolutely delicious. We've got the recipes for you in the show notes. For any recipes we have for quiche, we've got apple pie, all kinds of good stuff. Plus, I'm making a music playlist for pie because look, we've got even the band's Humble Pie. You got to think about the song Don McLean, American Pie. I got Ray Charles in my head right now thinking about some of his songs talking about, sweet potato pie. Oh, that's another one. That's a vegetable. Now you think about sweet potato pie. There's also rhubarb pie, which is a vegetable. So there's all kinds of ingredients. It goes according to where you are, what you have. So I looked up some of the history of pie. So it's been proven to be, and pies, by the way, can go by size. So like I was saying, empanada style. Like Natchitoches, Louisiana, one of our favorite places. We do a show, Natchitoches, every third Tuesday, excuse me, and they have the meat pie. The meat pie, it dates way back to when the Native Americans were living there, and then the Spanish came in. I mean, there's multicultures going on in Natchitoches, Louisiana. It is the oldest city in the state. But this meat pie was created. And this meat pie is absolutely delicious, and everyone's got a different recipe. There's different restaurants like Lazion's is very famous for it. You can get them at the French Market Express. You can get them at gas stations. That's what happens in Louisiana. But they have a festival every year celebrating their meat pie. If you go to Natchitoches, the oldest city in Louisiana, you got to have a meat pie, unless you don't like meat. But every September they have a festival. And like Rockland, Maine, excuse me, I think it's Rockport. Let me get it right. Is it Rockland or Rockport? I've got to get it straight here. Rockland. It is Rockland. Excuse me. Yes. Rockland, Maine has a pie festival, and I think it's happening today. Every January, celebrating National Pie Day, all these bed and breakfasts get together. And, Maine is known for their fruit. Oh, yes, we know lobster. So they have a big pie off, basically, and it's to raise money for local charities. But people that go to this area in Rockland and Camden come out there to sample over 45 kinds of pie. So I think we need to all plan, if you aren't there now, to go there next year. We'll meet you there. But they have everything from pizza pie to seafood pie. Well, yeah, they are the lobster city, right? They're the place of lobster. They have shepherd's pie, like I was talking about, whoopie pie, egg pie, fruit pie, sweet and savory pie. So we all want to go there, don't we? And that's the thing, too. We got to think back to the comedians throwing pies in each other's faces. And think about cream pies when we started using gelatin in pies. We started using also like Cool Whip. That came way later as part of this easier way of making pie. Like now you can go in and already get a pie crust done for you. You can buy frozen pies. But, kind of making it a traditional pies, I think that's a fun thing to do if you can get your kids involved and get in the kitchen. But I'm going back to where did pies come from? So they say that some of the most written recipes that they found, it goes back as far as the ancient Romans. There's also, they talk about the ancient Egyptians having like sweet kind of, like breads, shortbreads that could have been made into pies. So now I'm thinking like tamales. Is that kind of a pie? I know tamale pie is a pie. So that the very first one goes back to the ancient Romans that was written down that they could find. They were saying that one pie recipe was for a rye-crusted goat cheese and honey pie. That actually sounds really good. They made pies, the Romans, with meat, seafood, fruit, and they also made a dense pie. And I'm just reading this. I did not write this. And they say it's very similar to cheesecake, and it was called placenta. I did not write that, but that is what's there. And I don't want to call pie placenta, so that's kind of a downer. But anyway, that's what it was, like a cheesecake. Again, that goes by what did you have on hand. So if you have a lot of dairy, hey, make some cheesecake. Sounds good to me. Just not that name. Crust changed over the years too, because it really is about that container that we were talking about. A container for the filling, whether it's meat or not. And the containing for the filler made it easier to eat, but it also keeps the ingredients moist. We all love that word, from not drying out as well. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on here. The pies in America. Well, okay, we got the Romans going. Europe was doing it. England was doing it. They were making pies, meat pies, a lot of peasant food. And I think England is like the land of pies. Like, you got steak and kidney pie, Cornish pasties, those little pasties. They've got hot pots. They've got, steak, sausage rolls are even considered a pie because they're encrusted in pastry. So they have this going on. Rhubarb pie, the shepherd's pie, mincemeat pies, over Christmas, which actually started out as being meat, and now they've got raisins and currants and things like that in them, and they're over the holidays too. That's a holiday tradition. But back in the day, that was about what you had on hand. So it was kind of a normal everyday food source. Anyway, so we know the Pilgrims came over to America, and of course, they brought their recipes. And so a lot of them was really, the recipes were really like the meat pies when they came over to America. But then, because, they saw fruits and berries around, they started using that. And also, they also, a lot of pilgrims actually did make a stop off in Europe before they came here. And in Europe, they were using fruits and berries too. So now they started to do that. So the settlers came and they started using vegetables that are American. They started using game because that's what was around them. And the indigenous people, our ancestral people of the earth here in America, helped as well. So the other part about pies and why pies got really popular is breads took a long time to make. You had to, get the yeast to work and all of that, and then you'd have to have the right oven. Bread was not that easy to make. But a pie, you just rolled out the flour, and there's your crust. So that's another reason why. You've got to think what it was like to cook back then on those big old stoves or over a fire, those big cauldrons. So a pie was it, and the pies also used less flour, and that's a big deal. So you could really kind of go, okay, I don't have that much here, but we can do that. It was about what you had on hand. Again, I'm repeating myself, but it's true. So the apple pie, how did that happen? Well, America has a lot of apple trees, and you can thank George Washington for some of that. Apple pie, because apples were easy to store over the winter. And so you could keep them in a cellar, you could dry them and make them into a pie. So that's really how that happened. Again, looking at what we had. And also, if you ran out of flour and you didn't have that, sometimes people would use crushed crackers and they would take whatever they could to make a base, including soft-shelled river turtle meat, sour green tomatoes. Yep, they would use that as a base, and even vinegar-soaked potatoes. A whole new world there. Well, we're not doing that, right? So we had pie at the beginning. Those are the settlers. But then, of course, we had the immigration mode of all these Europeans coming into the country, and they all brought these different recipes that they have. You've got to look at the Pennsylvania Dutch. They brought in a little bit more spice and not as sweet in pies. The French came in and said, hey, we're going to do butter in our pies. Oh, we know they love the butter. And they started doing more of like a galette and pâtés and also using fish. So fish pie is a big deal. The Swedish came in and said, hey, we're also going to be doing fish pie, and we also love berries. We're going to do berry pies. Apparently the Finnish came in and said, hey, we're going to be doing more pastries or pasties, those little ones, little pasties like the Cornish pasty I was talking about, these little handheld ones, and we're going to do meat pies. Up in the north, pumpkin pie was a big deal, and that's because we had a lot of pumpkins up there. And then we started getting into more sugar kind of pies, and that had to do with what was going on with sugar in the Caribbean and rum and slavery. What was going on in the Caribbean with the British and the slaves out there. But at this point, then all of that allowed us to start getting sugar. And also in the northern states, we were getting maple syrup. So it was like, hey, put it in a pie. So, and it was the indigenous people who taught us how to make maple syrup, how to tap the trees and the maple trees and boil down the sap. And it's pretty interesting when you travel in the northern states and see that, yes, this is still going on. There are some neighborhoods we've been in Indiana when Nancy and I travel, right? And you go down a neighborhood street and you will see like little things tapped into the trees. They're just in a regular street. You walk the dog and we're tapping for our maple syrup, and that's pretty amazing to see because you always hear about it. Also, part of the Midwest, The Midwest is known for cheese, especially Wisconsin. They started doing kind of the cheese and cream pies because of all their dairy. And in the South, we got really good at doing sweet potato pies. I'm into that. I'm all into that. They're saying that, the most popular pies in America include apple pie, pumpkin pie, pecan pie, and let's not forget, down in the Florida Keys, key lime pie, and then also sweet potato pie. We have recipes in the show notes, as I was saying, so check that out. A music playlist, just a few songs to celebrate some pie. But we hope you have a wonderful and delicious National Pie Day. And please, in the show notes, tell us what is your favorite pie and where you are in the world, so we know, not just in America, but, if there's a specific one that you enjoy, we want to know, because there are so many pies around the world. I found this amazing list on Wikipedia that really reminded me of places we've lived all over. But things like in South Africa, where I was raised, there's a pie called the melk tart. And a melk tart is a milk tart. And it's milk. It's like a custard filling. But again, that we had a very big Dutch influence in South Africa. And so dairy was a big deal. We had like amazing Edam and Gouda cheeses over there. But milk tart will show you that, oh yeah, we're using our milk. We're using what we have on hand. I'm going to put that link that I found of all these recipe or pies, types of pie around the world. This is an amazing list on Wikipedia. And some of it, I really had no idea. Like, there's lemon meringue pie. Let's not forget that. Lemon icebox pie. And they just show them from, these pies being from around the world. The meat pie is basically, they say, from everywhere. But then we also have, I was talking about milk tart in South Africa. They have milk pie in Indonesia. So you can see some things that are very connected. Ooh, the Mississippi mud pie. I want to try that. And I'd love to see that the Natchitoches meat pie is in here. We love that. But even samosas are, some say samosas are part of it. Peach pie. There's a peanut pie. Now, that's something in the States. Now, I want to try peanut pie. Pork pies, pot pies, pumpkin pie. Quiche, as we were saying earlier, raisin pie is something celebrated worldwide, and that makes sense because you're drying the fruit and you can reconstitute it whenever you want it. But I did say about how this was an everyday kind of food. Well, back in World War II, when women, obviously things started getting a little bit, the Industrial Revolution comes in, manufacturing became a thing, and World War II women started working, and then they're like, dude, I'm not making pie. It's a pain now. We can do this. So now it's become part of a celebrate the kind of occasion. Like today's a day to do it. Why not? But when you really look at all the kinds of pies, it's pretty amazing. Like shoe fly pie, that's a Pennsylvania Dutch pie that we have here in the country. Steak pie, strawberry and rhubarb pie. Wow, I've never seen so many pies in my life. Going through this treacle tart, I remember eating that as a kid. There's walnut pie. All right, that link for that list is on there for you to look and kind of get inspired and maybe bake a pie or make something different. I think this bacon and egg pie in New Zealand looks good for breakfast. What do you think? Let us know. We are continuing our celebration of pie today because it is National Pie Day, but honestly, this podcast is for every day because why can't we have pie? Marie Antoinette, however you want to say her name, she always said, feed them cake, and today we say feed them pie. We're going to Oregon, and we're going to chat with Sarah Spector. Her and her husband, Dave, own and operate Bells Up Winery, and they make fantastic, fabulous, amazing wines. Should be on your bucket list for 2025, just, saying. But she's going to teach us about grape pie. I don't think I've ever had a grape pie. We're going to hear about grape pie, and then how do you pair wine with a grape pie? It's going to be a great grape pie, I believe. So I just want to give her website out so you know where to go. bellsupwinery.com, very easy. It's linked in the episode notes as well. So welcome back. How are you, Sarah?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Lisa. I appreciate it. When I saw your note asking about pie, I thought, well, I have to tell you about this one because it's kind of weird. But me and Dave were kind of weird, so
Weird goes well with us. I mean,
weird goes well
come
with
on.
with wine and pie, right?
Well, yeah, because people don't think you should do that. And yes, you can.
No, I had never heard of a grape pie, but I am widely acknowledged as having a U-pick problem. And there doesn't
Mm.
appear to be a 12 step for that, but those U-pick fruit places, right? Like there's the peaches and apples and all sorts of, strawberries and berries of all kinds. And there are a lot of them all over Oregon. And there's a gentleman here, not too far away from us, maybe about 20 minutes drive, in Hubbard, Hubbard, Oregon. And he has a home nursery of seedless table grapes. And he also is known for wine grapes, but he's pretty much retired from the wine grape grafting business. And now he
Mm.
just has this sort of like experimental vineyard of roughly 40 different varietals of table grapes. And so, most of us are used to going to the grocery store and there's purple grapes and red grapes and green grapes, and you don't really know what they are, right? Like, but there are a billion different varieties of seedless table grapes out there. And this guy in particular has 40 different kinds. And every September, he has what they
Hmm.
call they have an open house, right? And so you can go out there and for free get they give you a piece of paper and a pencil and send you up and down the aisles or rows of grapes, and you taste them and you can pick, it's a you pick thing, and you taste them all, you make notes on your little piece of paper, you decide which ones you like the best, and you cut your own and buy them there, and it's really cheap because you're buying them from the grower and you bring them home. And so I think we had been here, I think it was the first year we were on our property, so 2013.
Mm.
We had bought some vines from him, and he was telling me about his seedless table grape open house on Saturdays in September.
Hmm.
So I went out there and I have a U-pick problem. So I, turn around, I'm snip, 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 and I turn around, I've got, a couple 100 pounds of grapes. See that? And the farmer's name is Ray. He came up to me and he goes, "So what are you going to do with all those?" I said, "Eat them, because that's what you do, right?" And he said, "Oh, well, you need to make a pie with these grapes." And I said,
Okay.
"No, grape pie, you're pulling my leg. That's not a thing." And he said, "No, it's a thing." And I said, "No, you're lying." He goes, "No, really, it's a thing. In fact, we have a cookbook that we sell." So of course I bought the
Oh,
cookbook,
okay.
right? So I bought the
Cool.
cookbook and it was all sorts of ways to, use grapes. And he said, "Look, here's the deal." He's like, "Generally, you want to go with kind of the smaller, darker grape. So think the ones that look more like blueberries as opposed to the ginormous globe type grapes, right?"
Hmm.
So like the bigger a table grape is, the more likely it is to be used for raisins or juice. These are the things
Mm.
you never know, right? Who knew this, right? Me and my endless font of useless knowledge about all types of grapes now. But yeah, so he said you want to kind of use the smaller ones because it got, more skin and you're going to get more flavor. And he said, for heaven's sakes, never use a green grape in a pie because you bake it and it looks like snot. And he's not,
Now I want to do that. I do want to do that now.
well, you
So
should, I mean, for Halloween, like it could be a thing.
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm like, he was like, "I'll tell you what, you're going to go home, you're going to make a grape pie, and you're going to be back next week, next Saturday to buy more grapes for me." And I said, "No, I'm not. I just bought 200 pounds of grapes. I am not coming back. Like, there's no way." And he was like, "Oh, no, no, you will." So I went home and, started handing out grapes to the neighbors. And because, 200 pounds might have been slightly excessive.
I
And
think you were thinking of harvest season for wine,
I
possibly.
was clearly. Well, you start going and you're like, "Wow, ooh, that's a beautiful cluster. Ooh, that's a beautiful cluster. Ooh, that's beautiful. Ooh, I
It's
like this."
meditative,
Right?
it
It
is.
really is. And you wind up with all this fruit. Okay, so I come home and I make a pie, and I fully admit I am a pre-made pie crust person. So I just buy the store brand pie crust. I put down the bottom layer. All you do is you wash and pick the grapes off of the stems, right? You destem them. Um,
Hmm.
you, depending on how sweet they are, you may or may not need to add sugar. I generally don't. I roll them in a little bit of flour. I sort of like just toss them with a little flour. And then you can put in any kind of spice that you want. I do cardamom with this particular grape that I
Ooh.
discovered made a really good pie. And then I put it all together, and then I do a crumb topping. So basically, it's like I think it's a cup of sugar, a cup of flour, and a cup of butter, basically, and you just cut it into crumbs, and you kind of you throw that on the top. And it's because we
So
all
this is something I could do. Like
absolutely
it's
so
like
easy.
I'm a child in the kitchen, so this is
So
doable for
easy.
me.
So easy. And then you bake it at like, 350 for an hour, right? And it's delicious. So the grape that I think I did two or three pies, and there was one particular grape that we were like all going crazy about in a pie. And it is, I won't even tell you what it is because it is incredibly rare. This guy only has 12 plants of it. And I have some now from him, but it's very difficult to find. But my recommendation would be to go for a dark blue, smaller size grape.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's really easy. Again, don't go for anything green unless it's Halloween and you want it to look like snot. And so we baked, we baked this pie. We all tasted it. We literally annihilated it for dinner. It was it was dinner that
This
night,
is my kind of dinner. Now, did you
right?
pair wine? Did you pair wine with
Well,
it?
at the time we didn't, no. And the next weekend, sure enough, I'm back out there. I'm the first person in line to get through the gate, and the farmer comes up and he looks at me and he goes, hey, you're back. And I said, yeah, I'm going to tell you the three little words that your wife never says to you. And he says, oh yeah, what's that? I said, you were right. I am back.
Oh,
And I'm going to buy every single one of this particular grape. And I did. And so now every year I go back out there and I strip out all 12 of those plants of that grape and we make pie all year. And when Dave and I started the winery, we would go to other small wineries just to meet them and say, hey, nice to meet you. And wineries typically bring each other wine. But we always bring pie because it makes us a lot more memorable. And so I give out a lot of pie.
yeah.
That's how you know you're special if you get one of my pies. And one of my wine friends many years ago paired this particular pie with, of all things, our Firebird Syrah. And
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
it was
That's a,
amazing.
ooh,
And so that is our go-to pairing now. It's this the particular grape that I use tends to skew toward blueberries. So like if you were to taste it and you didn't know any better, you would think it was a blueberry pie. And so that would
wow.
be my alternative here. Like if you cannot find small bluish purpley grapes that are seedless, and I do use seedless grapes. I don't pick the seeds out of them. I guess you could
Hmm.
be a real pain in the butt.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's very much like a blueberry pie. And so that would be my suggestion, a Syrah,
Ooh,
and a blueberry pie, or even any dark fruit, right? Like if you could do basically the same
hmm.
technique with blackberries, um, and it would be
Yeah.
delicious. So yeah, that's my pie.
My style of cooking or baking, you
Oh,
know?
super easy, super easy.
Yeah,
Yep,
we don't
yep.
have to go. It's not like full on science, though we love science if we're blowing things up or whatever,
Well, and
burning
I
things
always
is typical for me.
and when I give people the pie, I always give it to them frozen and unbaked because I personally think
Nice.
that two things. One, I think 90% of the enjoyment of a pie is smelling it bake, right?
Yeah.
It's like pie foreplay, really. You get to
Yeah.
smell it and and you
Yeah.
think about it the whole day and then you're like, I want to eat this
You
pie.
can tell that you're in the wine industry because everything is about, you got to smell it. You've got to smell it. Does it have
It's
legs? No, we're not allowed to say legs anymore. Apparently, that's
no.
politically inappropriate.
It's incorrect, but yeah, I mean, and I have given these pies to like people, and I just say, hey, next time it's dessert on your time, you bake it when you want, and then you can always just tell people, hey, I baked a
Oh,
pie, and you're not lying, right? They think
would you
you.
put ice cream with it?
I would do vanilla, yep, vanilla
Yeah,
ice cream
yeah.
is great. Or I mean, if like I said, if you're doing a blueberry one, I would give it a shot with some cardamom. I don't even
Mhm.
think I use any more than maybe a teaspoon per pie. But if you could find like cardamom ice cream over a blueberry pie with a fruit
Ooh,
topping, that would probably be amazing. Or for when you do your ice cream episode, you can always ask people what their what their
I
favorite.
know. I think we're going to have to well, ice cream day will come up in
Yeah,
July. So then you can come back on and talk about the ice cream and then how you pair it with the pie. I
yeah,
like
absolutely.
this. Well, no,
Or
because,
wine.
well,
But
that's
yeah.
the thing. People always have this, no, this does not work.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love this story because number one, you're hanging out with a farmer. Who doesn't want to
Yep.
hang out with a farmer? You're married to one because you're growing
Yep.
grapes on an old Christmas tree farm. So
Yep.
pie is important.
Hmm.
Just because you had a Christmas tree farm where the
Yep.
winery is now.
Yep.
Um, but I think there's always an exception to the rule. And so I love this because it's a technique. It's one of those things that you could try with all kinds of things and maybe even savory with something. Who knows what you could do with the sweet potato? I don't know
Yeah.
if that would be the same. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's one of
Yeah.
those things you want to kind of go, hey, let's try this with this. And that's the favorite way to cook and experiment and have fun
Yeah.
instead of it being a chore.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
So
very
yeah.
cool.
So next time
So,
you're in Oregon, Lisa, we will treat you to some grape pie.
you know what? We'll be there in September,
Oh, perfect. Well, there will be
right? But
always
I would
grape
like to
pie
be
at
there
harvest. So yes,
Halloween time so that we can do green
we'll do a
grapes
green
and make
one. Yeah.
snot pie.
We'll make snot pie. It'll be great.
Because, come on, what else are you going to put in a snot pie?
I mean, it
Um,
tastes fine. It's just not the most appetizing thing to look at.
yeah, but what would you pair with a green? Because
Oh,
that starts to go with what you would pair apple pie with, maybe.
right. Yeah, I think
Trying
so. I think I would.
a
Well, yeah,
white wine.
yeah, a white wine, and you might consider. It just sort of depends on what. Again, you don't necessarily have to go like the blueberry cardamom thing. You don't really have to do that with everything. I mean, I know that people will do like nutmeg and, cinnamon, like apple pie spices with grape pies too. I mean, you can do that. But it truly is a thing. It really does exist. And yeah, that was the thing to me. I did not believe that a grape pie was real, but it is real and it is.
Mm.
To paraphrase that Seinfeld episode, right? It's real and it's spectacular. Yeah.
Oh, well. No, it's not. It's they. But
Hey, I
anyway,
know. Yes. Yes. Well, I was paraphrasing, but yeah,
I know you're being politically correct. So
I'm trying
I
to be.
said legs and they and all in the same show. I'm going to get in trouble. Well, I love this. I love this. Yeah. We will see you. Hope we're going to make it work this year.
Yeah,
We
please
get to
do.
Oregon, we're going to see you.
Well, we'll put you
And
to
then we
work
want
if
to
you come
sit
during
down
harvest.
and the harvest, you can put us to work. Definitely
Yeah.
me. I'm into it. Nancy will sit and drink wine and watch and laugh
Perfect.
at me trying to help. But,
Supervise.
one thing we do want to do is one of the famous Dave tastings. Come on. You know,
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
everyone, this is a unique thing. Bell's Up Winery is a small winery, boutique winery. And the tasting experience is you actually sit down and Dave, the winemaker, will sit down with you and go through the wines and do a tasting. And you can even do it from Zoom if you're another part of the country. So I just want to give a shout out to that.
Absolutely.
And maybe you want to make pie, get their bottle of Syrah and do part of that too. Who knows? But everyone, bellsupwinery.com is the place to go. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so much fun to hear your voice again.
Oh, you too. Thanks for including us. We appreciate it.
So it is National Pie Day, and it also happens to be National Rhubarb Pie Day. And rhubarb is a very interesting fruit. They actually, I think it took a while for them to even designate it as a fruit. I always thought it was a relative of celery. As a kid, I thought it was pinks or, like a ruby, rubyish, pinkish celery. But I don't know. I don't know if it is related. But Elaine A. Powers, who is a writer, she does an amazing amount of books that are science-based books for kids. Teaching them about conservation and reptiles and different wildlife species. She's a retired biologist, actor, singer, and you can keep up with her at ElaineAPowers.com. We know her through the Tucson Sisters in Crime organization, a great group of writers out in Tucson, Arizona. But when she heard we were doing a show about the best darn pie, she said the best darn pie is rhubarb. And so here she is. Rhubarb,
Hi.
is it a fruit to you, Elaine? Welcome back. How are you?
Uh, I'm doing great. No, rhubarb isn't a fruit to me. Um, it's a vegetable, and I looked it up, and it's actually part of the buckwheat family, which
Are
does
you kidding
surprise
me?
me. No, and I've just always loved the flavor. Of course, you do have to add a little sugar, but I don't like too much sugar. I still like the really tart, crisp flavor of chunks of cooked rhubarb.
Mm. Okay, so it was declared a fruit in 1947 in New York because it had to do with a tax thing
Correct.
between fruit and vegetables. So that, that's just like when Ronald Reagan declared ketchup, didn't he say ketchup was a vegetable? So who knows? There's things that happen in history that we go like, what? Whoop, whoop, but, the rhubarb, I really learned more about rhubarb when we lived in England. It was really popular in England. So I don't know if it's is it a big deal here in this country?
Not as much as it should be. I think when I was a child, it was a lot more popular. I don't see many people cooking with rhubarb as much as they used to. And nowadays they tend to ruin it by putting in strawberries. There's not, to me, nothing worse than diluting perfectly good rhubarb with strawberries. If
You
you want
know that
to,
June 9th is National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day. You don't care about that day, do you?
no, no, I don't. If you like strawberries, go ahead and make yourself a strawberry pie. Leave my rhubarb alone.
Oh, this is funny. So this is interesting about the rhubarb because so I did not know it is related to buckwheat.
Yes,
I did not know that. That's wild. Because it does kind of look like celery, right? In a weird
it
way.
does. It's described as red celery with leaves.
Oh, okay. Well, I read something, I don't know if it's true, but it was Benjamin Franklin who brought rhubarb here
Oh,
from seeds from a botanist friend.
okay.
And that's how it got here. I'm not sure, but now your rhubarb pie, okay, do you bake it yourself or get it from, I mean, do you bake or do you
I
just like
used
to eat?
to. I
Ah,
don't nowadays. Um, so back when I was younger, yes, I'd go to the store and I'd get my chunks and then I cook it and I just add a little sugar at a time until I got it to the perfect sugary level. And then the problem I always had was my pies would be too watery. And how do you get that slightly thickened consistency to keep the pie to hold together? Otherwise, you just have
mm-hmm.
some runny cooked but delicious rhubarb on a pastry crust.
Dough. Yeah, yeah, pie crust.
So nowadays I tend to get it as jam, um, and
Mm.
I prefer it that way. But I love a properly made rhubarb pie. There's nothing better than that. And a friend of mine who I ride horses with is also a big rhubarb fan. And so she's in the past few years tried different recipes. But I discovered on a recent trip to Patagonia, the one that's at the end of South America in Argentina and Chile, not the Patagonia, Arizona, that's actually a really good climate for growing rhubarb. And so I got every kind of rhubarb jam and rhubarb cookie and rhubarb cake that I could while I was there to bring back. And they actually know how to make some really good rhubarb jelly
Mm.
down there.
Wow. Wow. So rhubarb, yeah, like when we lived in England, rhubarb was a big deal. Our Scottish friends did this tipsy tart with rhubarb, and it was like a crumble, like an apple
Ooh,
crumble, but with rhubarb.
that'd be
And
good.
and yeah, you do have to get it right. There's that you have to find the balance between that tartness and a little sugar. Like, and I love things that have that sweet sour kind of thing, spicy sweet, all of that kind of, the opposites that attract. I want it all.
Yes, I agree.
And the texture has to be right too. It's like okra. You got to get the texture of okra right. But
Yes.
rhubarb, oh, bring it. And I tried to make that, and then it was like, how to even cook with the rhubarb. And then I think ours got watery, and then maybe it was too boozy, but then the booze probably went out. Anyway, I don't think we were as successful as our friends. They're from Scotland, and she can bake like she, she can bake anything for anyone with her eyes closed. She's just one of those, Eva Eldridge, right? One of
Oh,
those
yeah.
people
Yes,
like Eva. Yeah.
absolutely.
Eva's on shows here on Big Blend Radio and part of Tucson and Sisters in Crime where we met Elaine. And, yeah, Eva, you know what? I bet you she could do a rhubarb pie.
I
We
bet you
need,
could.
I think we need to set her up for this.
Yeah. Because, when I would make the pie filling too runny, it does work very well on ice cream, though.
Like a vanilla.
Yes.
I
Or,
think a nice plain vanilla.
a butter pecan.
Oh, that could be a good balance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh,
so even your mistakes turn out really well with rhubarb.
now would you soak them in brandy or something like that, or no? You want to keep yours clean?
No, I like mine pure.
You are really a purist about the rhubarb.
I am.
Wow. So I've also read that people pickle rhubarb.
Huh.
Yeah,
I've never run across pickled rhubarb.
I know. I'm thinking it might be a really good thing, though. That sounds good to me.
Huh.
Pickled rhubarb. I think we'll have to talk to Eva. We should get her on the show. We need her. We need Eva because she knows how to pickle things. But do you think you can get it in Arizona, or is it too warm a climate?
Oh, it shows up in the store for a relatively short period of time. Um, so, it's there, but it's hard to find.
Mm. Did you get it a lot when you lived up in Illinois as a
I
kid?
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it growing there. And the
Yes.
flowers are beautiful. They really are. It's
Oh,
gorgeous. And people do it in the hothouse. That's what I'm reading. That a lot of people,
okay.
and then Oregon, Washington, and Wisconsin. That's the
Yes.
massive place. Like those are the places for rhubarb in the country who grow it. Um,
Yes.
ah, well, hey, I think when we were up in Oregon, we saw more about rhubarb, even in the stores, because I was like, whoa, it's here. Huh, I'm gonna have to look when we go to Oregon this year. I'll let you know. And
Okay.
maybe we'll try make a pie because yeah, we have a good friend over there who also knows how to really cook and bake. So I'll talk to her about rhubarb pie. And hey, audience, please feel free to tag us in the social media comments with any rhubarb pie recipes that you do, so we can all try experimenting with rhubarb. I love that you bring this up because I think it's kind of a forgotten dish, and it's something, like I was saying, England and that area, it was very popular. But apparently, this country, we put strawberries in, and Elaine says that's a no-no. Why? I mean, would you eat it? Like if there was pie and they said you have strawberry pie, cherry pie, or rhubarb strawberry pie, would you go for the rhubarb strawberry pie or no?
I'd prefer not. I'd see what my other choices were because they're usually really heavy with the strawberries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a purist. Give
Oh,
me rhubarb or give me nothing.
all right. Well, everyone, there you heard it. Give her rhubarb or give her nothing. Everyone, ElaineAPowers.com. The link is in the episode notes. Thank you for joining us and getting us all like excited about rhubarb. Everyone get your rhubarb on. Sounds good to me. A little bit of tartness. And don't forget, there's even the rhubarb tart song. Have you heard about that? With
No, I don't know that one.
John Cleese.
Okay.
Apparently, let me see. I'm going to look this up. John Cleese sings the Rhubarb Tart song, and this was the 1948 show choir, and it's a rhubarb tart song, and it praises rhubarb pie and the events and people connected to rhubarb pie. So there you go, everybody. Um, go for it. Sing the rhubarb tart song. If I can find it, I will link it in the episode notes for you. All right. Who
Awesome.
knew? Hey,
Yeah.
get a pie song. Okay, so you just heard Elaine Powers talk about rhubarb pie and why it shouldn't be with strawberries. And I do say you need to go listen to the rhubarb tart song from John Cleese because it is funny as heck. Anyway, so we were talking about how Eva Eldridge, our friend from the Tucson Sisters in Crime, she's also a writer, a publishing, or I was going to say publisher, publishing expert, editor, go to evaeldridge.com. Link is in the episode notes. But Eva is an amazing cook, as we were talking about on the show with Elaine. And then lo and behold, somehow we managed to wrangle Eva onto the show right now to talk about rhubarb pie. And apparently she likes rhubarb pie, but apparently maybe not so much the strawberries too. Is that true? Are you on Elaine's side? Because she really came on the show just to attack the strawberry rhubarb thing.
I have to agree with her. I've made a strawberry rhubarb pie and it was not my favorite. I would rather have pure rhubarb.
Ah,
And then if you're
okay.
going to do strawberries, I don't want it in a pie either. So that's just me. That's just me. But
So everybody, it's out. Okay. Now I do know that some people make a fresh strawberry pie, and that is a whole other thing. And
it's
that's
like a
good.
tart, like a
hmm
tart, right? It's on a tart pan and you put fresh strawberries in a glaze and stuff. That's okay. I just don't want it cooked in a pie.
Mm. Okay. So what was the first pie you ever made?
Rhubarb,
Mm. Was the first one. So do you
yep,
think you could do
very first.
pineapple like you would do rhubarb into a pie or no? Just after,
I don't,
I have to tell everybody again how Eva made this fresh pink pineapple cake. Upside down cake. It was fabulous. So we had
it
a good
was.
time over the Thanksgiving holiday season, baking and cooking, and Eva doing the real stuff. And I just would chop whatever she told me to chop, and that kind of stuff. Um, but would you try that pineapple as a rhubarb pie? Because you know that whole kind of tartness to it.
I might, given enough um, uh, incentive to do that. Jeff, my husband likes pineapple a lot, so
Mm.
maybe I would try that.
Yeah, because the pineapple and the cake were going down fast in the house.
Oh my,
Everybody was,
oh,
everybody grabbed
oh my
whatever.
gosh, but the cake was so good. It was moist and it tasted fabulous. I want to do it again. And I bought another pineapple, not a pink one, but a regular pineapple, and it was gone. It was gone. Didn't have anything left, so no
Mm.
pineapple cake again.
So I'm thinking pie. So
Yeah,
rhubarb pie, what is it? Is it the cardamom with the rhubarb that is like, that's the thing that makes it work?
I've never put cardamom in my rhubarb pie.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
because okay, so I'm still at home so I'm under 18 years old, so I don't even know how old. We grew rhubarb in Florence,
Colorado.
next door
Uh-huh.
to where the garage, the outside garage, the detached garage
Yeah, yeah.
was. That used to be a rhubarb patch.
Okay. And everyone, Nancy and I stayed there for a while on the road. And this is Florence, Colorado, which is the very first place that drilled oil in the state of Colorado. It's a small antique destination, and it's near Canyon City and also the Royal Gorge. And it's along the Arkansas River. It is a beautiful destination. Yeah, it's really cool to know that that's where you were growing rhubarb. Like Nancy and I went to your rhubarb patch. That's cool.
Yeah. So when it's ready to go, it's a springtime thing. You cut off the leaves, and they have these huge, huge leaves. The leaves are not edible; they're poisonous to animals. but the stalks are good. So we would cut lots of we'd have lots of rhubarb. And that was the first pie I made. So you chop it up and you mix it with sugar and a
Mm.
little bit of thickener. So I think we used flour in there or cornstarch. Throw it in a pie shell, cover it up. It was a two crust pie, and bake it. That's all we
Mm.
ever put in it.
Oh, and I think it's the cornstarch because now Elaine and I were talking about that, how it can get really runny.
Yes.
And so
Yeah,
maybe the cornstarch
you have to use
helps.
some kind of thickener in it.
Okay. So arrowroot, would that work?
Yes, but I don't know how to use it. It's a different number. It works a little differently.
Oh,
The measurements are
okay.
different, but I think you can use arrowroot too. For those gluten people if you have a gluten-free pie crust, you'd have to thicken it.
Oh,
I thicken with tapioca.
oh, okay. It's just fun to say tapioca. It
Well,
is.
it does an amazing job
Hmm.
of thickening things, and it's completely gluten-free. All the canned apples I do, regular
Mm-hmm.
apples, I use tapioca to thicken it, and when I open the jar to use it in a pie, I don't have to add anything else.
Now, do you use rhubarb in anything else other than pie?
Um, Rhubarb crisp.
Oh, okay.
I like to mix it like with apples, and I've
Mm-hmm.
mixed it with what else have I mixed? I've mixed it with a couple other fruits, but never ever not strawberries. Sorry.
Mm.
Apples. Did I do it with pears? I did it with something, I think with pears because I had like 50 pounds of those. Anyway, and then you put a crisp on top of it, like oatmeal and brown sugar and um, nuts. It's fabulous.
Mm. I think there's a beauty of pie. You can do all kinds, like you're saying, chocolate pie. I always think like cheesecake can be a pie too, in a way. There's savory
It
pie,
looks like a pie. Yeah, it looks like a pie.
like a tart, you know. Before we're recording, you were saying even a quiche is a pie, right? So,
Yeah. Well, they look
wow.
like pie. I mean, you put them in that kind of round, shallow dish, right? And you put stuff in it and bake it.
Okay. And when we talk about baking, the science of baking is intense. Like baking a cake, you have to have precision, don't bang the door. Is a pie a good way to start to learn how to bake? Because it doesn't seem to be as difficult as baking a cake.
Yeah, I think pie could be. If you buy store-bought pie crust, I would start with a store-bought pie crust. For me, pie crust is the biggest detriment to pie. Most pie crusts I don't care for. And so I've developed my own pie crust and method of doing that, and I like my own pie crust. It's work though, it's a stick of butter to a cup of flour, and you can increase it. And if it's a sweet pie, I add about a tablespoon of sugar, and if it's not a sweet pie, then I don't. And I use salted butter, and you
Mm.
use very, very, very cold water, but I like to use cold, bubbly water, like mandarin orange, bubble water. What do you call that stuff?
Oh,
Seltzer water. Yeah.
that's an
And
interesting technique.
and you
Yeah.
don't mix it too much. You only mix it long enough. You get the butter into pea size, mixed into the flour to a pea size consistency. You work in your very, very cold water, and you don't work it too much. Then you have the layers of butter and flour um, that barely stick together, and when you roll that out and cook it, it makes a really flaky, light pie crust.
Wow.
Oh, and I
Wow.
put
What
it
a
in the
great
fridge
lesson.
too. After you
Mm.
mix up the dough, I put it in a Ziploc and throw it in the fridge for at least an hour. And most of the time, I forget it for a couple of days before I get back to it. So it needs to go in
Mm.
the refrigerator for a while, and it allows the flour and stuff to
Mm.
relax, I guess, or absorb the water. I don't know what it does, but it really does make a difference letting it cool, and then let it warm up before you roll it out, or else you need a steam iron to flatten it. It's really hard when it's cold.
You know, I think there is something about the crust because of the texture. To me, it's about the texture. And pie
Yes.
is about texture. There
Yes.
should be this multi-layered experience, but not over multi-layered, right? Um, and just even how it looks, you know, it's everything. I know this is going to sound weird, but since you've been on our shows for years, I get to be weird, and you know us, Um, I just I'm devastated about the passing of David Lynch, right? He to me
Right.
is one of the greatest in creativity. Um, I've talked about him for years on shows because of transcendental meditation and what it does for your brain, because it does create a super brain, a super mind. And in fact, we've had Dr. Norman Rosenthal on the show talking about it, and they were friends and everything. And some of the most amazing films came from David Lynch, and he changed what we watched and how we thought. And he glorified weird, and you think
Yeah.
about Dennis Hopper you know, and then his daughter was an amazing filmmaker too, still is, right? Um, and she did weird stuff like Boxing Helena. But I remember Twin Peaks growing up as, in teen years,
Right.
Twin Peaks. And I was just thinking about this as you were talking about that of the one character in Twin Peaks. He wanted his pie. It was all about cherry pie. Cooper, who wanted his cherry pie, always talked about pie on that show. And yeah, it just reminded me just how important pie is. Because that was kind of how the character was built. Like if you didn't bring up pie once in a while, you lost the consistency of it in a series and in a movie was important. So as a character, pie was part of the character. Does that make sense to you?
Kind of.
As a
But it's supposed to
writer,
be weird. It was supposed to be weird anyway. So,
I know. So anyway, I just want to say, I hope you find that cherry pie in the sky. You know?
oh, thank you. I thought it'd be rhubarb though.
Oh, well,
Oh,
you wanted
my,
cherry.
I love
Uh-huh.
cherries. Cherry pie would be my favorite.
Mm.
Then
Yeah.
followed by most cream pies.
Oh.
And a lot of times I like to eat the filling out of the pie and just leave the crust because I'm picky about crust.
But if you
But
make it, you'll eat the crust.
yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Now, favorite savory pie.
What would that be?
Chicken pot,
Quiches are
like pot pies.
quiches are okay. Yeah, I like chicken pot pie.
Empanadas. If you think about it, samosas are also empanadas, samosas. All of those are kind of in a way a pie. There's a pizza
Those are
pie.
called pocket pies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're empanadas and that sort of thing are pocket pies. Those are
And
really good. Those are very, very good. I made those too from when we were in Argentina. They serve them all over Argentina, and when we came back, I had to make them. And
what
those are
about Cornish
savory.
pasties? Cornish
Um,
pasties.
yeah, they can be good. They can be good. They're very oniony.
I like those. Cornish pasties, we used to have those in South Africa and England. Samosas, big deal.
I
But they weren't
bet.
deep fried.
Uh-huh.
But you can bake them too. But we also had cheese puffs, which Nancy and I, especially when we were on the road, would eat these. And you get them in a grocery store. That in Leamington's, and Leamington's is a whole other thing. It's like a sponge cake, like kind of soaked in chocolate and coconut. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
That's not pie.
No, no, but it is delicious, right? This
Okay.
this chain of grocery stores made these cheese puffs, and it was like a fluffy pastry, and it kind of looked like a little Danish, but the inside was like a whipped cheese and onion sauce. And yes, I would like one of
Yum.
those now. Yeah.
Yum.
Golden delicious, like, butter on butter glazed on the bun. I mean, it's like Dr. Jackie Ubani, the heart doctor on the shows would say no. You're allowed one in your life, but anyway,
Yeah, well,
you,
those do
you
sound
must have
good.
one. They do. Oh my gosh. But there's a thing. South Africa did a lot with cheese and onions. which I don't see much of in this country, but cheese and onions is a big deal. And I don't know if that came from the Dutch side, but England also did onions, like even, oh, I know we have onion rings here, but onion, potato chips, crisp,
Yeah,
onion crisp, you know.
yeah.
So I wonder
They're
about that.
popular here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
there's stuff. It's sour cream and onion. But,
Oh,
sour
yeah.
cream, cheese, not much difference there for me.
I don't remember sour cream being a big deal in life, but I don't know. Maybe it was and I just didn't know, you know. I like sour cream. Sour cream's good, but in a pie, like a cheese pie, like I would think green chilies from New Mexico and
I wouldn't be
cheese
putting
on a
that in a
pie.
flour crust. I do something like that, but I don't put it in a flour. Well, think about it. I use tortillas as a crust.
Oh, tortilla. Now you're getting into now our
Yeah,
friend Andrea, who had a bed and breakfast in Southern California. She was on an organic farm and she would do this tortilla casserole in the morning. It was all tortilla shells, right? Well, not shells, the tortilla corn. And
corn
it would
though.
drape over and then she'd put in, it was like a quiche. So it was like a egg and cheese and chilies. And then she'd fold it over and then bake it. Oh my. Hmm.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. I'm into pie now.
Okay.
Hungry now. Thank you so much. Eva, so much fun. I can't wait to have another cooking adventure with you. We had so much fun cooking and
That'll,
wine pairings and I got you to drink some wine with food and even the cake and all kinds. It was fun. We
that
tried
was
things.
fun.
It's
Um,
it's fun to try new things. It is.
we'll we'll get that chance again this summer, remember?
I know. Everybody stay tuned. We got things going on. We got things going on. We'll have some more cooking and cooking it
We'll have
up
to,
in Tucson. After all, Tucson is the gastronomy capital, UNESCO gastronomy capital. So,
it
you know,
is.
as
And
locals,
we're very proud of it.
you support the restaurants and everything, but you should also maintain that life, that quality of life by cooking really good food or baking pie. Just saying. If you were to make a
Okay. Now,
pie, okay, I know we
I'm
always
gonna
go
have
over
to
our
make a pie. I'm gonna have to make a pie now, right?
Yeah, but what would you say represents Tucson? If you were going to bake a pie, savory or sweet, what would you say this is a taste of Tucson in a pie? Ooh,
Let me,
oh, I know, put
yeah,
you on the spot.
it would have to involve something with Mexican food. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
with
Yes.
really good chilies and enchilada sauce
Ooh,
and your
refried
choice
beans.
of tortillas. Yeah, and cheese.
Oh, cheese, lots of it. Lots of it.
Yeah.
Mm. Ooh, some carne asada? Can we have can we just
I
make a
think
big
I think something like
enchilada pie?
birria would work better because it's shredded. Carne asada are like chunks of steak. Could be carne seca. Seca, which is
Hmm.
dried, shredded, and reconstituted beef.
Oh God,
You
I
could do
love
something
that.
with
It's so
carne
good.
seca
I love that.
or chicken.
Chicken
Chicken,
would
I
be
mean,
good. I think
chicken, if
chicken is
it's
good.
done right, it's delicious. Yeah. Okay.
Chicken, cheese, and chilies.
I do that casserole. Should I make that for you when you come next time?
You know we're not going to say no. Heck yeah. Everyone, we're going to Tucson in summer. We can't wait. It's snowing right now. We want
Yeah.
sunshine. We want our friends. Yeah, no, let's have some fun. And well, hey, we might get talk Eva into a cooking video. You never know. Or not. She's
Or
been
not.
very good with us in the past, but but thank you so much, Eva, as always. Everyone, evaeldridge.com. Check out our website. She works with authors getting published. She does so much and also writes in Big Blend magazines and joins us on podcasts and also part of the Tucson Sisters in Crime. You're the acting president, right? So,
I am Elaine and I are co-presidents.
oh, okay. See, and you both like rhubarb pie, so I know what's happening at the next Tucson Sisters in Crime meeting. Rhubarb is involved. I don't know if
I'm
there'll be
gonna,
a murder, but you never know. If there's strawberry in the rhubarb pie, someone is getting murdered. All right. Thanks so much, Eva.
oh, that's a great idea. I'm doing an anthology again this year. So, hey, that's a great idea. All right.
So when it comes to pie, as you heard from Eva Eldridge, pie crust is a big deal. It's all about that texture, and that goes for whether it's a sweet or savory pie. So Maria Chamberlain is back on the show. She is the innkeeper and owner of the Inn at Oxbow Acres. And this is up in I'm going to say it, Milan, New Hampshire. Am I saying it wrong? You haven't been on a show for a while, Maria, to get us straight on the on the town name. But welcome back.
It's
How are
Milan.
you? Milan. I knew it. Okay. Milan. Okay. Milan. Got it? Okay.
Yes.
So everyone go to their website, oxbowacresnh.com. It is beautiful there. And I feel like Maria's going to make pie from something in her backyard. Do you ever do that?
Yes, actually, my favorite filling. It's from my backyard. Part of it is.
Well, what is your favorite filling?
Well, I love strawberry rhubarb pie, and we have lots of rhubarb growing in our backyard. So, of course, we use that in the spring, and we have wild strawberries, but they're not enough right now. That's another future vision, is to have like an acre of just strawberries.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Growing here.
Yes,
So
now, I have to
that's a
tell you what
supplement
is
from the store.
so funny about today's show on pie. So before you on this podcast, we have writer Elaine A. Powers, who came on the show, which today is also Rhubarb Pie Day. She came on the show just to say there should not be any strawberries in rhubarb pie. Then Eva Eldridge came on and we, talked about the importance of crust. And then she agreed there should be no strawberry rhubarb pie. But her favorite, first pie she ever learned to make was rhubarb pie. So you get to balance this out. So you get to stand up for the strawberry rhubarb pie that has its own actual day in June, and there is a national rhubarb strawberry pie day. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, it is, but yeah, there is. But so I love that someone is standing up for the rhubarb strawberry pie. I've never had it before, but so you want the strawberries in there? Why do people not
like
want
the
them?
strawberries.
Okay.
The rhubarb is a little tart, so the strawberry gives it some sweetness to balance it out.
Okay. Well, June 9th is your special day for, strawberry rhubarb pie day. So, yes. And, okay. So do you grow rhubarb at all? Like you're into the strawberries, but have you grown rhubarb before?
Yeah, I have a whole patch of it that is overgrown, so it's probably decades old, and we get lots of rhubarb each year. I need to separate it. We were just talking about that yesterday, actually.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so I know. Okay, that's your thing. So everybody, we have a balance here. So I'm glad someone's here to stand up for the strawberry rhubarb. Now let's get to pie crust, and that's what you wanted to talk about today. And do you do the same pie crust like for all pies, whether they're sweet or savory, or is it different depending on what you're making?
No, it's generally the same recipe. So I use pastry flour, and the main difference with my pie that I notice is I get a really nice flaky crust is you use half butter and half lard is what works best, but you could use half shortening. But I've switched over to lard, and that makes an even better, lighter crust. So that's my secret. Use pastry flour. Well, that's the ingredient secret. Use pastry flour. Use half butter, half lard, which is a third cup of each per 2 cups of flour, and then a half teaspoon salt. And I used to cry making pies. My mom loved to make pie, but it wasn't the best. And she would measure out 11 tablespoons of shortening. And as a kid, I would think, isn't there a better way? Like, couldn't you use a measuring cup and find out how much 11 tablespoons actually made? So you were, mixing with 11 tablespoons, and she used 2 knives to cut the shortening into the flour. And so I'm a little more like about efficiency. So I wanted the conversion. It's a third
Wow.
cup. It's much easier that way. And I use a pastry blender to blend the pastry and not two knives, which takes forever. Um,
But some people, baking and cooking is a meditative, calming time out. And as a busy mom, you need that time out sometimes. It's like, I'm going to take a little extra time doing this pie so I can have some time to myself, even if people
that
are
might have
around.
been what she did with the two knives cutting it in. That very well could be. She had five kids and we were noisy.
Oh
So
man. So she's taking her frustration out. She's like, ugh, with the two knives. Just like, that's it. I'm tired. I'm cranky. No, I'm
yeah,
kidding. Because I think when you make pie, you're making it with love. I really do believe that,
yeah.
you know?
Well, anyway, I used to cry because, but at least when she made her pie dough, it all stuck together and it looked nice. And as a young bride, I would make pie dough and it would it would just not. I wasn't using the butter either. And someone long ago introduced me to a pastry cloth and a rolling pin cover. And if you flour your pastry cloth and your rolling pin cover, you will never cry making pie. Is what I have found because it just smooths it right out. And then you can roll the dough right back onto the rolling pin that's in the roll that has a rolling pin cover and flip it onto your plate and it comes out beautifully. So those are my little secrets. Use a pastry cutter and
That's,
a rolling pin cover and a pastry cloth and it'll make a huge difference.
and lard.
And lard, yeah.
I remember, you bring memories back now. And now that I think of it, this jam tart that they made in South Africa. And I remember a lady on a farm in Tabazimbi. It's up in the northern part of South Africa. And this is when Nancy and I were traveling on her tour, with her artwork. And we were on the road for a year and a half, 2 years, who knows? But it kept extending because, I mean, you're in South Africa. There's stuff to see and do, you know? And she was raising funds with her art for the Cancer Association. So a lot of times we'd stay in places where she could do her painting for the commissions, that she got paintings in a region. And this gentleman and his family, they had this farm. So the kids had commissioned work and everything. They said, well, go stay on what they called the Plos, which is the farm. And you can catch up on your painting and get everything done. And, cause this was this massive fundraiser. And we go out there, man, and it's like, life was on a generator that, there was an outhouse. I mean, it was old school and I was a kid and it was a massive, learning experience for me. I've lived in the bush, in Kenya, but this was like, then got modernized and then suddenly, we've seen all these cities and everything. And then it was like, wow, okay, we're back to generator times. And the food was made on an old wood burning stove. And it was, you talk about slow movement. They had cattle, they had all kinds of things, but I loved it there. I loved life there. And by the time you went to bed, you didn't care that there was no light. They turned the generator off and you had kerosene lanterns to read by and everything. And by the end of the day, you're tired because everything was a chore, but it felt good and productive. And that's why I started writing a cookbook on the road. I don't have it now, unfortunately. I wish I did, but when you leave countries, you do. And, she taught me how to make what was a jam tart. A tart in Afrikaans is for tart. And the dough, and she was using lard. And I always thought lard was what the crust was. But I mean, she was doing this all, and the berries and the jam tart was not coming out of a jar. It was jam she had made and from berries and fruit from their farm. And it was a very simple recipe, as I recall. And she also taught me how to grate fruit for like a crisp or something or a crumble, that the grated fruit on top, like a bed of it, was like that became a new texture. Like it was interesting. She taught me a lot. Grated apples. And I love sitting there and learning how to use a wood burning stove. Don't ask me to do it now. That could be dangerous. But these were all old recipes passed down through the 1800s from their family, you know, in this small
That's
little
amazing.
farming village. And that, that was, she used, I think, butter and lard. I mean, I was young. I mean, this was years ago, decades. But I remember the lard being a thing. And then I remember coming to this country in pie and people were saying, don't use lard. And, and like even our tortillas in Mexican, you know, that living when you lived
Hmm.
in Southern California, the tortillas, they were getting away from putting lard in, but lard is good for certain things. I think, if you're not doing it, eating it every day, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Right. And well, that's a whole nother topic, but the animal fat will process through your body a lot better than Crisco. And you could leave Crisco in a garage for 20 years and open it up, and you know what you have? Crisco. You don't
Mm.
have, it doesn't spoil. It doesn't get moldy. It doesn't disintegrate. Whereas anything else, you leave it and,
Yeah,
it's going to expire and go bad because it's made of natural ingredients. So,
well, yeah, this is a whole food. I mean, in
yeah.
England, everybody had a chippy tin, so they would recycle the oil from making, you know, chips, French fries, and
Okay.
they'd put lard. So if you made bacon or sausage, you'd take the oil and put it into the tin, you know,
Yes.
which would stay on the stove.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
That's how I grew up. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. This is so cool. Yeah. And things were so flavorful too. Like it had a
They are.
different flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, your pie, and you can get lard just in little packs from the grocery store. They sell them in like little rectangles. So, or you can get it
This,
from a friend of mine renders her own. So I get it from her, and it just makes the most delicious pie crust.
hmm, I love this. What a great conversation. You've taken me back. Yeah, I think, the lard, I mean, like I agree with you about this because we put so many preservatives in our food. And I think good pie is not about being preservative stuff. Good pie is when fresh fruit or meats and vegetables are used, if it's a savory, right? Um,
Yes.
it's all these preservatives. I mean, I have kept experiments in the car. When you meet us, I'll probably have a science experiment going. I've had a French fry sit in the car for over 3 years and not change shape,
Oh my
color, anything.
goodness.
I know, but it's been through extreme temperatures, freezing, 110-degree desert weather, and nothing changed on it. And at the same time, sometimes you get like fast food ice cream. Do you know it doesn't melt? So I just want
I
to,
read about that. Yeah, that's scary.
isn't it? So like, I think the ice cream or the cream that you put with your pie is equally important that we do it with some authentic ingredients, you know?
I
So,
agree.
have a good, delicious time with your pie and doing those pie crusts. But thank you for that. What a cool story and cool, it's a family story too. I love it. I love it. Everyone, again, we all have to go to New Hampshire. Go to oxbowacresnh.com. Do you serve any kind of pie to your guests when they come to the bed and breakfast? Because we're even looking that quiche is a pie. Pizza is a pie. Anything that has some kind of container for it, kind of food is a
Right.
pie
Well, I
in a
have to
way.
tell you, living so close to the Canadian border at Christmas time, meat pies are a big thing. And um, this year I was especially aware of it because the local market, had a cooler of meat pies. And
Mm.
then I saw some other places advertising meat pies. And I was like, wow, that's like such a huge thing. And then somebody local on Facebook uh, made a post and shared like a Pinterest link. And she said, this meat pie is the closest to my memes that I've ever done. So I took that recipe and I altered it a little bit because a real French Canadian meat pie doesn't have vegetables, but I had some vegetables. I wanted to use up some carrot and celery and put it in there. And it was delicious. I was like, wow, now I know what the big thing is about meat pie because it had so many savory flavorings in it and spices, and it was really good. So,
I know I
yes, I
touched
served
on this.
that.
I touched on this at the beginning of the show about Natchitoches, Louisiana. Is their state pie is a meat pie, and it comes from Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is the oldest settlement in the state, and
Oh,
it's in the Northwest. And so the makeup is like it's everybody's like, well, the Native Americans, the indigenous people, but around the corner in a town called Zwolle, they're known for tamales, and the Zwolle tamales, they have a festival. It's more that comes from Native American roots, and the tamales are not like what you have on the Mexican side. They're really thin and more leaner kind of meat. It's different. It's just
mhm.
completely different, but it's part of local food. But the meat pie was that way too. So all these cultures, and when you said Canadian, I'm like, well, you got to think about Louisiana and the Canadian connection with the French Canadians, right? And so
Right.
everybody's added something. You've got all our African American community there. Everybody added something to this meat pie, and everyone has a different meat pie when you go. So, if you go to Natchitoches, Louisiana, get a meat pie. I mean, and when we lived in England and even South Africa, Kenya, because of the colonial, connection on that, meat pies were a big deal. Cornish pasties, all of that. Meat pies are good pies. There's a whole, oh yes, Cornish pasties. I remember there was always carrots and peas in there. There's always those in there. So if you had to use up some vegetables, people put that in there. But even a shepherd's pie is a pie, you know? So,
Right.
and I think they use a potato as the crust. That would be its official, like it's okay. So, yeah. Very cool. Well, listen to everyone. Again, I'm going to give out the link. All the links are in the show notes. And please don't forget, in the show notes, we have links to past podcasts and recipes, our music playlist that also has the Rhubarb Tart song by John Cleese, and everybody must listen to that. So all in the show notes. Thank you all for listening. Happy Pie Day, whether it's Pie Day now, tomorrow, just, hey, we want pie, Pie Day on December 1st, Rhubarb Pie Day, or a Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day. We could have Pie Day every day. So
We
enjoy.
could. We'd all be happy.
Yeah, we would. Thank you so much, Maria.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.